Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. I have Meghan here. We are filming the Persuasion book tag. I was tagged by Berna and we are both Jane Austen fans,
yes,
massively. So we thought it'd be fun. Yes, total Janeites. So we thought it'd be fun to film our little tag about it. So I have two copies, these are both mine.
Yeah,
I love this one.
Here.
It's my favorite Jane Austen book of all time. And we're gonna just do the tags. We thought it'd be fun to film outside, so hopefully it's not too loud. Hopefully the arm's not shaky. We'll make it work. So question number one is about Jane Austen's adaptations and Persuasion in particular, which I actually have not seen many Persuasion adaptations. I think I'm scared to be ruined, or scared to have them not live up to expectations. However, the question is, what adaptations are your favorites from books written before 1900? So, do you want to go first with your answer?
Yeah, for me, it's funny. I never had like a favorite movie because I love so many movies. Like there's so many good ones that I never had a favorite movie, and I never had an adaptation that I thought was better than the book. I always thought the book was better until the 2019 Little Women with Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Florence Pugh, all the other people. It was so good. Like it was so good. I think I did a video over on my channel about it, but I was just
I'll link it for you as well.
Oh yeah, thank you. That'd be great. Yeah, but it is, I think in a way, I think it actually improves on the book because it does some of the things that Louisa May Alcott wanted to do, but her publisher wouldn't let her because of the times and all that stuff. So I actually think it's better in some ways than the book.
I totally agree. That one's like brilliantly done. I also really love the Sense Sensibility from 2008. That one's just so genius in my opinion. It improves on the book as well in my opinion. And I love how it just makes it so much better than the 1995, if I am like swearing on that. I just think it just does so many great things for that book. But yeah, I really love the casting and all of the things about that version.
Yeah.
I also really enjoyed 2019 Emma, but there were some things I didn't like. The twist at the end, that they changed things up. I didn't like that. So it was good overall, but not an all-time favorite.
Yeah.
So question number two is about Anne and Wentworth's angsty romance.
Yes.
They are very tumultuous, shall we say, with their romantic relationships. And it is asking, what is your favorite angsty romance that's not them? I personally do not like angst in a book or much of TV shows. It's personally a turn off for me, so I don't read a lot of them, but I do enjoy Anne and Gilbert from Anne of Green Gables. I think that it shows them, and they also do mature. That's, I think, why it's one of my favorites, at least of this type.
Yeah.
Because they grow out of it pretty fast. Like it takes a book and then they're done.
Then they're friends and they're actually like good friends.
Exactly. And then they kind of move out of that angsty phase. So that's at least my answer for that.
Yeah, for me, if it wasn't Anne and Gilbert, I would say Margaret, Hale, and Mr. Thornton from North and South. It's very angsty, lots of things in common with Pride and Prejudice. If you have not read it and you're a Pride and Prejudice fan, read it. It's really, really good. I love it.
Good answer. All right, question number three. So this one is about Wentworth's military career, and so it's asking about any character who's the lead in a book that also has a military career. So go for it.
Yeah, for me, it's a nonfiction book. It's a true story. The story of Louis Zamperini. It's called Unbroken by Lauren Hillenbrand. It's the biography of Louis Zamperini. There was a movie based on that biography that Angelina Jolie directed. It's really good. This man is, stranded on a raft for 47 days in the South Pacific. Then he's a prisoner of war in Japan during World War II. Then, he was an Olympian to begin with. Like, it's amazing. It's an amazing story. So definitely, massive trigger warnings for basically everything. But if that doesn't bother you, I would definitely recommend that book.
It's a heart-wrenching book, but a really amazing book. So for my answer, I'm going to go with the Shakespeare play series, actually, which is the Henriade, or isn't it called the Henriade?
Yeah, the Henriade.
The Henriade. And so this was more specifically, I guess, the Hollow Crown version, and it's an adaptation, which I guess would actually work for the adaptation one.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that till literally just now, but I really loved this version, and I loved watching all of the Henrys because they all go to war, they all are doing battle. Totally works for this, and I loved how it just showed all of the different parts of England's history, even though it's historical fiction, so you can't take it as law. I do
Shakespeare has kind of played with it a little bit.
It's definitely showing who's good and who's bad, but I think it just was really interesting in how it showed history as a part to learn about, and I really love seeing, that part of England's history that we don't always know because we always are learning about the Tudors, you know, about the, like, not necessarily that part of the War of the Roses, but after the War of the Roses. So I enjoyed that part a lot. So that is my answer. So question number 4, favorite adventure story, because it's all about, you know, the military is an adventure. So what's your favorite adventure story, Megan?
There's a siren.
That's the perils of filming outside.
Okay, well, whatever. I think it's most...
It's driving right by. So question number 5 is all about adventure, as the British Navy is full of adventure. So what is your favorite adventure story?
Yeah, for me, it is The Scarlet Pimpernel by Amuska Orczy. Sorry if you can hear the traffic noise, whatever, it's okay. Yeah, it's very adventurous. It takes place during the French Revolution, and it's about a mysterious Englishman who saves a bunch of French aristocrats from the guillotine. It's very good.
Very exciting. And if you're reading Lemez, that's a really fun alternative to read while doing that.
And short, it's really short.
Very short. One of my favorite adventure stories would actually be the Chronicles of Narnia. I think that it's just so full of adventure. Every time you pick up a different book from their series, it's always just like a different part of the world and a different adventure that you're going on. And you never know what turn you're going to take in that world. It's just so much fun. I think it's great. So yeah, C.S. Lewis really did a great job at writing that whole thing. So the next one is Anne is a dutiful sister, which she's way too good for her siblings. So in all of regards, and not even just her sisters, I think actually
Her
Charles,
father.
and she's way too good for her family in general. So the question is, who is your favorite, or what is your favorite sibling relationship in literature? So for me, I think it's Little House on the Prairie. I think they show very interesting sibling dynamics because they don't lie. Sibling dynamics are not perfect. But Mary and Laura and then Carrie and then Grace even, they all just are very interesting all together, and they, you know, they just show real life. So I really enjoy that sibling dynamic over the whole book series.
Yeah. For me, mine is Rilla of Ingleside. It's the last book in the Anne of Green Gables series, and it's about Rilla, Anne's daughter, and then she has an older brother named Walter. And at the beginning of the book, he kind of looks at her as this little kid. He's like, oh yeah, like she's just this little child, and he doesn't really confide in her or take her seriously. But then as she grows up, he starts to confide in her and treat her as an equal. And so it's really sweet, and yeah, it's really wonderful.
It's a good book, and I actually need to reread the whole series.
Yeah,
so.
It's really good.
It's a good one. So question number 6 is about the fact that Anne is an older woman.
She's an older woman.
At the ripe old age of 27.
27. Oh.
She's like ancient. So what book is, or can you name a book that essentially has an older female lead? What's your answer?
Yeah, so my answer, so the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, the lead Juliet, in the movie she's younger, she's played by Lily James, and she's younger, but in the book she's supposed to be about between 35 and 40, which is still a young woman, but often you don't find books with women who are that old. Often they are like 17 or 20 or whatever, so it's nice to read a book where she's a little bit older, even though she's still not older.
I know. It's kind of sad. I'm gonna go with a book that I think she was actually 27 as well, which is so sad now, but I'm like, because we're older than that.
Yeah, I'm 28.
But when I remember reading, I was like, wow, she's older than like most books that are written. And this is the Song of the Highlands by Sharon Gildenwater. I still need to reread this because this is one of my favorite books that I read several times. And the main character that I'm talking about, her name is Mariah. So it was a very great book, and I remember just like her being older and more mature, and that was a big part of her character, the fact that she had gone through a lot of life experience already. So that's not very common in those kind of books, which is very nice to read about, especially when like you're not, you know, 22 anymore and you're like, I'm gonna die alone. Very different kind of worldview. All right, so the next one is about the fact that persuasion is often referenced in So the next question is about the fact that persuasion is often referenced, I'm sorry about the sirens, in popular culture. I'm just gonna keep talking. So the question is, what's a book that you have heard talk about or reference other books or themes? in like, or talk about another book like that. So my answer is actually Sad Cypress from Agatha Christie. She actually, it's like a retelling of Twelfth Night.
Oh, I didn't know.
And it's very interesting to me that like she kind of did a retelling of a Shakespeare play. So I read it for ShakeTube last year because of that reason, which not many people know about. I think it's very interesting to see kind of parallels between a Shakespeare play and a murder mystery. Yeah. So what about you?
Yeah, for me, so Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell, it's not that it directly references Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, but there are some similar themes. There's like some similar like parallels between characters. The heroines have a lot in common. There's like these other female characters, Cynthia and Mary, that have a lot of similarities. The heroes have a lot in common. It's so there are quite a few similar themes, but Mansfield Park definitely talks about other things that Wives and Daughters doesn't, and Wives and Daughters goes deeper into what it is talking about. So, yeah.
And I think those extra pages help with the themes as well.
It's longer, yeah. Wives and Daughters is,
Yeah. So question number 8 is about Captain Wentworth being a self-made man. So what is a book that has a self-made main character? So mine would be The Count of Monte Cristo, which he makes himself over. Like he starts off not being really well established, but then he, as Edmond Dantes, has to like reestablish himself as the Count, and he completely recreates himself, which some people might say he has a bit of help, but I think that he has to create that help for himself. So I think it counts.
Yeah, for me, it would be Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. She is a governess, so a lot of Agnes Grey is based on Anne Bronte's experiences as a governess. So she has to, earn money, earn her own bread, because she hasn't gotten married, and so she has to provide for herself, and it's really good.
Great one. And so the last question follows about gender roles and traditional gender roles, as how like the book kind of follows that and like talks a lot about traditional gender roles. So the question is reverting that and asking what book reverts gender roles. So you have a fun one.
Yeah, The Hunger Games, because Katniss is literally doing the classic male role, like of hunting for her family and bringing in the food for her family, providing for her family, which is traditionally a male role. She's the one doing all that. She's the one who's laying down her life to go to the Hunger Games. So, and then she leaves Gale in charge of her family.
And I would even say like Peeta's like the one who's cooking and like
Peeta's
doing
cooking.
all those things.
Peeta's painting himself like a cake to camouflage himself. She's saving Peeta.
Completely opposite. And I'm gonna go with Crazy Rich Asians, because I think in some regards it's very much an opposite thing, where Rachel, she's like an economics professor, and like yes, Nick is a professor too, but like at the same time, like she's had also a self-made woman, but she has had to like work up that way, and her like entire married into family is like, why? Because Nick doesn't have to do any of that. So when he goes home, he's just like being treated like, like just being treated with everything, all the things he wants, and she's like working for all the things that she wants in life, which is typically, I think, like the breadwinner is typically the man's role in traditional rules, and he's like, no, she's the one who's making all the money, she's the one who's got all of the things, and I'm just lucky to be with her. So it's really interesting to see that traditional switch, and he's like fully owning up to it, which is really fun to see. So yeah, those were the tag. And then there is one additional one where you can talk about a personal antidote with Jane Austen if you would like.
Yeah.
So we have a fun little story.
Yeah, we have a fun little story. So we are cousins. You probably know that by now. But yeah, growing up, we would kind of call each other by different literary names. So I would always call Naomi Jane, and she would always call me Lizzie, and we'd be like, Jane, Lizzie, and we'd like see each other.
I don't know when that started even. Like, when did we first get introduced to Jane Austen?
I was like 13, or I was younger than that when I got introduced to Jane Austen, but I first read Jane Austen when I was 13, so it might have been around that time.
And I know I first saw Pride and Prejudice in theaters in 2005.
Yeah.
Like that was the first movie I ever saw in theaters, a Jane Austen version, was Pride and Prejudice. So that might have been when we started this.
Yeah.
But we also did like Meg and Joe and like
Anne and Diana.
So it's a thing that we always did. But yeah, I was always Jane. You were
Yeah.
Lizzie.
I was always the good characters.
I was always the boring ones.
Well, you were Eleanor. Eleanor is the hero.
I know, but I was always the boring one. So we're just about to quickly jump in the pool before it rains. So thank you so much for watching, and I will leave Megan's channel link down below if you want to subscribe to her, and I'll link her video as well for Little Women. But anyways, bye.